I want to give a really big thank you to the three council members that we have with us today. John Hines, Kevin Ushka, and Christina Walker are here with us. Thank you for being here. That's a big part of the purpose of this event, is to be out here with our elected officials, experiencing what it's like to ride on the streets in Tacoma, and talking about like the actual reality impacts of what this infrastructure means for people. So on that note, I'll stop talking. The first place we're going to go is over towards Wright Park. That's going to be kind of our first regroup spot as we go up the hill. I wanted to stop here to talk about the Link extension that will be opening in the spring. It'll be really exciting. You'll be able to take it down to Tacoma Dome, through Stadium, through downtown. It's going to be a really great asset, I think. But as we see all of this new transit mode coming up to the hilltop and all of this construction going on, a lot of this is slated to be affordable housing, with commercial in the first level, and what we call transit-oriented development, right? So we're building places for people to live along high-frequency transit access, with the goal of that being that people don't have to have personal cars, or families don't have to have more than one in order to do what they need to do, and live their lives, get where they need to go. And that's great when we look at, there are a lot of bus connections in the hilltop, and we'll have the Link here. But there's not a lot of great, super safe cycling connections that we have up in this area. So we need those multimodal connections. So as we're putting in these big projects, what does it look like to include things like protected bike lanes around those? There's planned to be a bike boulevard on J Street, the next street down. It's not funded at the moment, but it is something that's planned nebulously for the future. But is a bike boulevard really what's going to best serve a big, transit connection like this, or all of the people that are going to be moving in to all of these new developments? And so my point there being, what do we think is really going to fill those needs and make people want to do more cycling and feel safer doing so?
We need to answer safe bike parking.
Aha! Do you want to talk more about that?
I'm very protective of my bike. If I can't see it, I'm not leaving it there even if I lock it off. And there's a lot of theft. I don't know what the answer is, but there are better bike garages and whatnot that can be installed for public use, and we've not really talked about that. And I'd like to look more strategic about doing that around services. You'd see a lot more people using their bikes for services.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that there is a safe place where you can put your bike when you're not using it during the day. Separating.
Couple of things. A lot of times if there's bike lanes, there's often stuff in the bike lanes that makes them, even if there are bike lanes, it almost makes them less desirable to use. We're talking debris, we're talking glass, we're talking garbage bins, we're talking people parked there. Just all kinds of stuff. We'll even have construction things in the way, The other part of it is left turns are like a cyclist nightmare. It's like one of the most nerve-wracking things to have to do as a cyclist. A bike lane this way is great. I could go for days on this, but as soon as you have to interact with any kind of traffic or car, that sort of safe feeling just goes away. And I've seen some parts where there's separate things for cyclists to do left turns, and it would be great to see those. In addition to just bike lanes specifically where not necessarily it's high traffic for cars, but high traffic for cyclists who use it naturally. There's something called the path of desire. We'll construct something like this, but we'll notice that everybody goes this way. It would be great to see that for for cyclists. Something on 19th, you know, are we going to use it? It's still really scary to be on 19th. It's excellent that it's there, but like cyclists will take side streets or less busy ones. So yeah, more connecting bike lanes that are free of debris and destruction and something for left turns. That's what I got.
Love it. So it is not legally required to wear a helmet in Tacoma as of early 2020. Yeah.
You notice you're all wearing them. So the new Shmi was wrong.
Right.
Kids size me.
That's what we tried to tell everybody, you know? Not people don't wear helmets because it's the law to wear them. They wear them because they have been taught that it's safer to wear them. There are about 3 projects happening in this area that all kind of interact with each other. One of them is a big repaving project on Fawcett, which I believe is all of it. It'll stay as a bike boulevard in that way, but the really exciting parts of it are down that way between 19th and 21st. They're going to be putting some traffic calming measures on there, so they'll do some curb bulb outs for pedestrian crossings. But over on 21st Street, they're going to put in a really exciting looking intersection with bike boxes, with bicycle detection, with center medians, and a hawk beacon. Because I know for me personally, when I'm walking around in this area, the closer towards 21st, 23rd, 25th area, you know, the hill gets so steep that I never feel super confident that a car isn't going to just pop up off the bottom. So having those additional like lighted signals there, I think will be a lot of added comfort, especially with the bicycle detection on there to help with that. We're doing there's all this repaving happening on here, and I wonder, you know, why not also do the same with this intersection on 19th? Why stop just at 21st? And I know the answer is generally money, but you know, if we're dreaming, then why not? If this is going to be the main way to travel through downtown on a bike, then why not really commit to it and put in those safer intersections with beacons? Why not have a protected bike lane that moves through downtown?
Without creating physical barriers to protect, how do we get reinforcement of the laws and rules surrounding our current bike infrastructure? Like Emily had mentioned earlier, you know, cars are just allowed to park in the bike lanes. Along Yakima and Lincoln, I have quit reporting cars because police they just don't report to it. Is there, I don't know how we get law enforcement to enforce laws that we're creating around bike infrastructure.
They park in the bus stops too. The bus drivers have to deal with that too.
Yeah, but there's like a Pierce County Transit Sheriff specifically that is taken care of. Those things do, you know, they'll come and move cars out of the bus traffic spots, but as far as bike infrastructure, it's not enforced by law enforcement.
Well, I will say it's worth reporting them, even if nothing gets done immediately. Get those in 311, either by phone or on the app. Because the more data we have that shows a problem, the more we can deal with it. So now that we know that you've been reporting it, so there's been a lot, like Catherine, John, and I can pull that data and ask for a report and then ask for them to look at it. Right now, it's not going to be the highest priority for the police department, but there may be other solutions to that and maybe other ways we could deal with it. So I would say in the short term, just keep reporting it, make sure you're sending those in addition to like bushes growing over bike lanes or grass in the bike lanes and those kind of things. really good to get those reported as well. And then yeah, ping us so that we can ask for that and we can look for solutions. So it's not going to get fixed overnight, but we'll look into it.
The other thought I want to add to that is as there's more conversations about protected bike lanes or grade separated bike lanes happening, you know, the 64th Street cycle track and the project coming down Cedar Street, which will be mostly protected or grade separated or both at various times. It kind of changes. They have there's public meetings about those where they put the design out. And I think that's an opportunity to come out and say, like, can we think about, you know, if it's like the 64th Street cycle track, that is separate from the roadway. So that solves that issue by a matter of design, right? If we're looking at just standard bike lanes, can we push for having them in a different order, you know, having the bike lanes close in and then parking on the inside with bollards or something like that? You know, are there ways that we can challenge that in design and give that feedback as the new projects are coming in that can start to prevent the issue from happening, at least on the new infrastructure? I'm always telling people to go to public meetings though, so maybe that's just me. The thought is, how can we encourage people who are living downtown to, you know, be living downtown, working downtown, traveling and fulfilling their needs in the downtown area with less cars. So if we're putting in all of this development and business here, how do we make it? Whoops. They tried to get away from me there, sorry. How do we make it as bicycle and pedestrian friendly as we possibly can? So that people don't have to own cars or own multiple cars at the very least. And there's also hotels in this area, so we have people who are visiting, and if they can come from the airport on the Sound Transit bus to Tacoma Dome and get up into downtown, or eventually by taking the link, then we should create a downtown where they can spend their money here in Tacoma and visit our businesses without having to rent a car, and they can feel like they can just walk around in the downtown core safely, especially at night. And like I was saying about these intersections here, 21st, 19th, they just don't feel comfortable to cross. So how can we work to kind of address those things?
So we're talking about all these things we need, and I just want to step back for a minute and say, for people around the country, we've got stellar trail systems. They're not fully connected. And we're talking about hotels and whatnot, and I keep thinking about, we need to think about bicycle travel destinations, right? It's difficult. We don't have a lot of connections even throughout the city that come, you know, everything directs downtown. But you look at Pipeline, and when it connects to foothills, pretty soon you're going to be able to go mountain to sound, you know, without stops. So people travel for that sort of thing. We have the Cushman Trail, Scott Pearson Trail. We've got the Flume Line Trail. And if you actually follow them, and most of you probably have, they're awesome. It's figuring out those connections between them and making sure that we go east and west in our neighborhoods, wherever you are. I love that bicycle infrastructure, but like when we're talking about Fawcett being the place for bikes, I ride a bike, and forget my council hat for a minute, bicycles belong everywhere. So how do we make sure that we can get everywhere? And part of that is if we can make those, I think, if we can make those paved paths, which are the best way to ride, in my opinion, so that they spur off throughout the city. I mean, that's where we're going to go. I think there's funding in place now, and I think Christina can correct me if I'm wrong, to connect the Foothills Trail to do the connection through Federal Way to downtown. Is that how that goes? I'm looking at Andrew.
So I couldn't hear you, but yes, I think so.
Yeah. But then we also have
For the interurban,
We have upper.
yeah.
We
The
have
interurban's connecting, like, getting towards Federal Way, yes, not all the way, but eventually.
which is totally cool. And so if we can start getting funding down towards the Roy Y so we can get down to McKenna, I mean, you can get all over the state on a bike. So yeah, we have a lot of things that we need, but I hope that all of us that are cycling will also celebrate those assets, because non-cyclists have no idea how cool it is. And people literally get on planes to see this sort of thing. So I just wanted to say that we're building it, we're using it, they will come. So let's welcome them with open arms when we get that far too.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've taken the driver's test, but I don't remember anything super in depth about how to interact with cyclists. Like, I know that we wouldn't see that payoff for a long time, but often people who don't bike don't know how it feels, so they don't know how close they're getting. They just don't know how they are to us when we're on our bike. So best practices, just somewhere in the process of learning how to drive, so that not the first time that you hear or have to deal with it is out in the wild and actually being next to a cyclist. Something in the learning stuff, something on the test, just something to put it in people's minds that they need, like how to pass them, what their rules are, what rules are for cyclists, because that's the other half of it, is that yes, if you're in the street, you should act like a car. But did every car owner know that we can go through red lights now? Probably not. So disseminating information, starting it earlier when people are getting their licenses, just education. Good help. A little compassion.
Yeah.
For those who just don't know.
As far as where new bike infrastructure goes, so it has to be first in the transportation master plan. There is a fully built out bike map, and so when we have funding for bikes, we start there. And then it also has to be on the TIP, the Transportation Improvement Plan, which we update every year. Like projects roll off and roll back on. And to get on the TIP, you don't have to have any money. You just have to have a dream. And you put it on there, and then it goes in the zero column, and then it says like we'll need grant funding in the future or something like that. There's a ton of bike stuff on there that says that. And then Liz in the Public Works Department is constantly looking for grants and writing grants, and hopefully we're also contributing some funding from the general fund and the Transportation Benefit District Fund. But whenever those dollars are allocated, it starts with that list. So they have to be on there. So the Transportation Master Plan is going to be approved next year, so that's the time to get in there and look at that map and make sure your street is on there.
Where can we find that? What's that? Where can we find that?
There's a Transportation Master Plan web page on the city's website, and there's a link to the full map. And I don't know if they made it interactive or not. It might be like a PDF that you have to blow up. That's not really great, but they do. There's like a whole map, and then there's the walking map, the biking map, the transit map, the auto map, and the freight map. So they do separate them out so you can see where things are.
But even if it's on the plan, like there still can be like a real street fight as to like whether it gets built. Like the plan might say protected bicycle, protected cycle track, and then they go to build it and they're like, should we do protected or should we like save money and just do paint because we can like do it further? So like even though it's in the plan, like there still has to be like advocacy for like each project each time.
Does the public get to advocate for that, or is it just within that?
Ideally, yes, the public should. Like usually, if it's a big project, they'll have like a public process. So yes, but then sometimes it's like harder to know. Like, oh, we're redoing a street. And it says on the bike plan it should have a bike lane. Should we do the bike lane now or wait until we can do a bigger project? And those are just harder. But when it's like a bigger project, like the Pack Out one was, yeah, there's definitely public input process.
Our electeds can't do anything if they don't know about it, and the more people tell them things, the more power they have to bring up. Oh, my constituents are saying this many people keep saying this, they keep bringing it back up, they keep wanting to talk about it, they're concerned about this, they really love this thing. So it really is significant to participate in those public comment processes and to speak at city council meetings, virtual forum or community forum. There's opportunities to speak and to kind of be organized and figure out what you're trying to communicate, and putting that messaging together and making it known.
Yeah. We still have $4 million for Schuster, but we need you all to tell the city that you want us to build Schuster. It's an incredibly expensive project because it either has to dig into the hillside or take a lane. Taking a lane is not very popular. I think it would be great, but I don't think that that's probably going to be the best option. So building a separated trail is expensive, but we do have money for design. So the message I got from Public Works today was that the project is still happening. There is going to be a public process coming up, but they have said that before, and it's sort of like died in the back rooms of City Hall or something. So if you would like to see downtown connected to Ruston with a trail that's actually bikeable, I know you can do it now, but only the brave. Please let us know, and I will email the Public Works Director and the City Council.